Hi everyone, this is Irradian, and this is another phase plant tutorial. I'm going to take things piece by piece, so the videos will probably be shorter, but maybe I can get a bit more information into each one. So I'm going to take it starting with the analog oscillator. Just a quick note about how phase plant works. So to get sound, first of all, you need a group and an output. Now if you have a completely empty slate like this, if you add in one of these or if you add in any module, any of these 6, you'll get a group and an output automatically, but if you add the rest, you have to add yourself. So if you just add in, say, like a wavetable oscillator, you'll automatically get a group and an output, but you just have to keep in mind that you do need a group and an output to get sound, because if you just add in like a wavetable on its own, you're not going to get anything if there's no output. Another thing, phase plant goes from top to bottom in signal flow, which is pretty easy to understand, I think. So let's say I add in an analog oscillator, then a distortion, then a filter, but I put the filter at the top. The filter isn't going to do anything because there's nothing for it to filter, right? Because it's at the top, it's the first thing in the signal path. But if I put it below the distortion, it's going to affect the distorted signal. So that's going to be a bit more useful for me. Anything below the output won't play. So right now I wouldn't get any sound even though I have a group, an output, and an analog oscillator. If I move the analog oscillator up above the output, it will make sound. So now I have sound. Okay, analog oscillator. Pretty simple. It's your 4 basic waveforms. You got your saw, your square, your triangle, and your sine wave. You can mute it by pressing these blue squares. Actually, that goes for pretty much any module in this synth. It's a really visual synth, so if you change anything, pretty much anything in phase plant, you'll get some visual feedback in the generator section as to what's changing. Sync, you probably know what that does, but it basically crams more copies of the cycle into the waveform. So adding sync, I got more saw waves in a single cycle now. It basically duplicates the wave, so there's more oscillations in a single cycle, more triangles or more squares or whatever. Phase width, this is the knob below it. It's only available on the square wave, but it controls the phase width, so you can do complete nothing to nothing phase width modulation if you want. It goes all the way. It goes all the way, guys. Yeah. Unison, only 8 voices, but like I said last video, you can add in your own global unison down below. And the oscillator unison, by default, there's no stereo on it, but you can add stereo by using the spread knob. Blend knob, it's gonna add in the wet unison signal, the other voices, and detune, pretty self-explanatory, just makes the wave detuned, I guess. But you have to keep in mind, if you have blend all the way down, you won't hear anything. That's why I didn't hear anything at first. And there are a few parameters below the visual that all the generator sections share. So if I add in a wavetable, a sampler, and a noise section, you'll see they all have a level, they all have semi-cent, they all have harmonic, shift, and phase controls. So the level, pretty simple, controls the amplitude. Semitones, you can change the pitch in semitones and cents. Cents is like a fine tune, and semi is like a coarse. If you ever used FM8 or Citrus, you'll probably recognize this. This is like the ratio in those synths. It's similar to semi and cent, but it's a multiplier. So 1 is the default harmonic. It's a default ratio in this synth. So to double it, move it up an octave, you double it, and to move it down an octave you would cut it in half, but moving it down can be kind of annoying sometimes. One thing you can do if you want to get an exact value is you can right click and type in what you want. So let's say I want 28, a bunch of really random numbers in there, and then I can to reset any of these parameters you can just double click. Shift will move your signal up or down in hertz, so it's a bit like cent. It's a bit more, it's not so fine. You can move it pretty high up. Sorry if that hurt your ears, but it is possible. So there's a lot of ways to control the pitch of oscillators in the synth, which is really nice. Phase controls the offset of this the waveform, so like the starting point where it starts. It's probably a bit easier to see if I do this. So you can change it up to 180 degrees, and then you can implement phase randomness, which is the second number here. So if I do 180 phase randomness and I put in 8 voices of unison, it's going to randomize the phase for each unison voice, which is something to keep in mind. Like you probably know already, but if you don't, unison can kind of eat up a lot of CPU pretty fast if you let it. One last thing, copy and paste oscillators. Control or command and click and drag. And you can do this anywhere in FazePlant. If the effects would load, I can copy and paste effects by holding down control and click. I can do the same thing in the modulator section. Can be pretty useful. Really like that feature. And I think that's it for this one. Yeah. See ya.